Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Social Work Bubble podcast. I am your host, Laura. I am here with my lovely guest, Ashley Escobar. Thank you so much, Ashley, for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
Now, Ashley is currently a student at NYU. We're going to be getting into some very interesting conversations today, just about Ashley's own journey, as well as her experience being a white passing student at NYU in social work. Ashley, you want to just get started and kind of introduce yourself and what you're currently doing?
Of course. Hi, guys. My name is Ashley Escobar. I was born and raised in West Harlem, New York City. I'm currently pursuing my master's in social work at NYU on the 16-month pathway. I'm currently on my third semester. I'm interning at the moment at a domestic violence setting, case management more kind, where I work directly with survivors and support their empowerment and healing. And once I graduate, one of my goals is to obviously obtain my LMSW and then later my LCSW, as I want to go more into the clinical social work field to focus on
Mhm.
trauma-informed and culturally responsive practice.
That is so exciting. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
How fun. This is kind of a side tangent, but how are you feeling about like the domestic violence shelter work that you're doing?
It could be very overwhelming considering every survivor has a different story. And it's important to obviously have a lot of empathy and self-awareness and social awareness of how to proceed conversations you're having with clients, which is something I've
Hmm.
been doing. Just pausing, checking in with my clients about how they're feeling, and just noticing like patterns of feelings because I get it changes from time to time when they're talking. So just taking
Hmm.
note of that as well and going at their pace.
That's awesome. Good for you. Now, what led you to choose social work and kind of pursue social work in general?
For me, it's just been that growing up, I witnessed how my parents and older brother struggled to adjust life in the US after immigrating from Ecuador. My parents
Hmm.
immigrated during the 90s, and my brother came here like post 9/11. So I
Oh,
was the
wow.
only one in my family born in the United States. So even though I'm the youngest, since it's just my brother and I, there have
Hmm.
been some kind of pressure because of how privileged I am to be a US citizen. And
Hmm.
I felt that I needed to do well, make the most out of my opportunities because my parents and brother, it was a struggle for them. And so
Hmm.
for me, it was just more of like understanding how growing up, like the importance of, immigrants coming to the US, specifically Latinos, how it's not easy to assimilate, as well as learning a new language and not having
Hmm.
sometimes the support that they need and are eligible for, unfortunately. So for me, it
Hmm.
was just more of like navigating somewhat on my own growing up, as well as like
Hmm.
in school, I experienced bullying because people just, I guess, didn't like me, like because I like didn't look pretty to them, like all that. So
Oh.
it did affect my mental health and confidence growing up. So
Hmm.
it just led to me developing severe depression, anxiety for a while. And it wasn't until my sophomore year of high school where I began to learn more about mental health and learn how to take care of myself. So
Hmm.
for me, it was just once I, started doing that, I saw so much progress with my academics, graduating high school
Hmm.
with honor roll, and then in college as well. Like I graduated from the City College of New York with my bachelor's degrees with summa cum laude, which is something I never
Oh,
expected it to happen
that's so
because
cool.
thank you. I never expected it to happen because I hate taking tests. I'm a very anxious person. And it was just more about like always advocating for myself as well as like having good networking with my professors because
Hmm.
I realized in college how important it is to be vocal and just stand up for
That's huge.
yourself even when it's like hard times. So
Hmm.
that led me to actually want to continue to advocate for others who have similar barriers, but also more of like that they don't have the opportunity to have a voice. Because
Hmm.
especially right now in this political climate, it has been very difficult for a lot of
Yes.
marginalized groups to be advocating for themselves because of the fear they have, specifically, you know, because of their appearance and also because
Hmm.
like it's just a very cruel world right now too.
Yes, absolutely. Well, good for you for also, I mean, just with your own lived experience, how stressful that can be and dealing with the many layers of that. But now like walking into social work where I think for a lot of people they go into social work with some type of lived experience or something that has given them so much empathy and perspective of the world and they choose to then be a help to other people and like to be a light to others. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like that's really awesome to kind of be like, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this and show up for the people that like need support. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, good for you. Now, okay, so we've established you're also at NYU in the
Mhm.
big city. What led you to NYU's social work program? And what has your experience been like at NYU specifically?
So when I came to NYU, I always knew I wanted to get a master's in social work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my first therapist for that post grad, she really like inspired me to go into this field because I want to continue to do advocacy through like giving clients resources, but it's also like focusing on their mental health. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew about NYU for a while because even one of my brother's childhood friends went to NYU and she
Mm,
had a good experience. She also comes from the same background as me. And
yeah.
NYU throughout like the years always has popped into my head, whether that was for undergrad or grad school, but I also knew how competitive it is to get to NYU. It's like a really prestigious institution besides Columbia, especially for social work.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was just more of like last year while I was doing patient coordinator at a medical office full time, like I felt drained at times, and I just knew this isn't something that I wanted to do forever. So I just looked up like MSW programs because I'm like, you know what? I feel like this is the time for me to take action and just go for it
Mm-hmm.
because one of my fears was just like after graduating with my bachelor's in psychology, like a lot of programs I would hear from others or like even look online that like they wanted students to have experiences. And it's just hard to have experiences when you just have a bachelor's degree at times and not every
Mm-hmm.
place wants to take in someone that just has a bachelor's, or they will take them in,
Right.
but you're not getting paid. And it's like you're just
Mm-hmm.
it's just not your work is not getting appreciated. So for me, it was just more of like when looking into MSW programs last year, for me, it was like I want to advocate for myself. I do want to like communicate with admissions about like my experience to see if this is something that I'm able to apply. And
Mm-hmm.
I did that. And even with NYU, I remember one of the workers for admissions mentioned how I'm good as long as you have good recommendations. It could be your boss from your current job, from a previous job, as well as professors. And I did
Mm-hmm.
establish very good relationships with my professors at City College, specifically in the my psych major. So it wasn't
Yeah.
hard to get recommendations from professors there. So
That's awesome.
yes, I did take the risk and just applied. I applied to NYU as well as Fordham University and Syracuse online.
Woohoo!
It was a long process, but it was worth it. And a lot of the questions was asked is why you want to go into social work. And it's like you really have to, it's really more of like not like a right or wrong answer, obviously. It's more like it's something that's in your heart and in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's
that's very true. Because I think that's a question that like trips a lot of people up. It's just like, okay, well, I need like a good enough answers to like why I want to pursue
Mhm.
social work. But you're right, like sometimes it is just this thing that exists within us.
hmm Yeah, and basically, like I mentioned before, like it's really about to be a year since I got into NYU. So I remember I kept checking my emails after I applied for my programs because
Yes.
being the anxious person I am, I'm like, okay, like, is there any updates? Is there any updates? Is there any updates? And I remember Syracuse was the first one. I found that out October of last year. Then at the end of October, it was Fordham University. And then now in November it was NYU. But when I opened NYU, I was really surprised that they actually gave me a scholarship for it. And
Oh,
I was
that's
just more
awesome.
shocked because I'm like, oh, okay. It looks like they're trying to like also push me to go into their program, which I like it
Mm,
kept coming in my mind because I also kept talking a lot about it with some of my friends that knew I got into grad school and
hmm
my parents and brother. I kept this for a while from other people, like my other family members and some of my other friends, because I was really worried at first I wasn't gonna get in. And once I found out at least I got into like at least one MSW program, I was like, okay, now we can like tell like little by little I
Mm-hmm.
got in. But yeah, it was a wild journey, but if I had to do it again, I really would.
That is so awesome. What a feeling to I totally remember the feeling of like just waiting to hear back from colleges and like anxiously always checking the email. That is so what a feeling. I'm also hearing though like you really did so much for yourself and that like you really advocated for yourself. You really, like you said, connected with a lot of your professors in undergrad. Because I feel like when you said earlier, you kind of had to figure out a lot on your own and just kind of like discover everything on your own. You really set yourself up for success by just like putting yourself out there. And I feel like that's a big thing that's uncomfortable for a lot of people is like, oh gosh, I like maybe talking to my professors feels weird or like how am I supposed to build those relationships? And you did that. And then I was just, it's so cool. How inspiring. Good for you.
Thank you. I mean, it's not easy. I understand why sometimes some people don't want to do that, and that's fine depending on like the environment they're in.
Hmm.
And each is to their own, but for me, it was just more of like I wanted to really put myself out there, even if it's like not the response I got. It's like in my head, I'm like, okay, at least I tried. At least I did
Yeah.
the best I can.
Hmm. That's so true. And you know what? It worked because here you are at NYU.
Yes.
How cool. Oh, that's awesome. So overall, I mean, it's been like 1 year since you got accepted. You've been there. How have you felt about the social work education that you're receiving?
So for me, I knew that NYU it is diverse, but it's also
Hmm.
predominantly white because
Yeah.
it like if you look up like it does say it's a high percentage of white folks coming from not only New York but other states. And so
Yeah.
I already knew like what to expect because my first year of undergrad I actually went away to upstate. And I also knew it was predominantly white, but at the same time I didn't expect to be questioning more about my identity as I
Hmm.
as ever before. And for me, it was just more of like the reason why I only lasted a year was because like it was my mental well-being wasn't there. And
Yeah.
it wasn't even my grades, it was just like my mental health. And it was such a struggle. And I did receive counseling, but I felt like it wasn't enough. And I luckily had my parents, my brother supporting me through the process of like coming back. I transferred back
Mhm.
prior to COVID to
Oh, wow.
CUNY, which is the City College of New York. And fun fact, I
Hmm.
literally live like a few minute walk from there. Like it's
Oh
right
my
by my
gosh.
area. So it worked out.
That's awesome. Wow. What a journey. And again, like what a huge moment because lots of complicated feelings and all of that, I'm sure, but you really listen to yourself and put yourself first to be like, what really works for me right now? And sometimes that means like walking away from something and entering something else, but it clearly worked out and that's what you needed to do for yourself.
Yes, I did gain independence, of course, being away from home for like a year. And
Hmm.
that's the time where I learned I'm like, okay, like I'm really like even though like at the time like I would talk to my parents, my brother, and like some of my friends who stayed in the city every day, like on the phone. It still wasn't the same, but they always like
Hmm.
supported me. Like there's times where it's like I had to cook because I didn't want to eat dining hall food. And I would text and call my mom, be like, hey mom, like can you give me the recipe for this, this, and that? And like she
Mm.
did it so well and everything, and I survived. So I truly appreciate her. And then yeah, like it was just more of like navigating like a whole new environment where it's
Hmm.
like kind of less diverse, but also just
Yeah.
like more of like, okay, like I'm on my own. I can make this decision whether I want to go to class, whether I want to do my homework because this isn't high
Hmm.
school. I don't have my parents on me.
Oh.
Like it's more freedom than you ever think.
Hmm.
And you have to learn how to use it wisely too.
Very true. And it's such an adjustment because it is like so much freedom, especially when you go away for college and it's just like, oh my gosh, like, whoa, this is just a whole new world and I have to handle all this on my own.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, we talked about too, I mean, these experiences, not a lot of diversity going on.
Mhm.
What did you observe in being white passing in these spaces that were not really that diverse?
So when it came to my identity, I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't understand what it was like to be a white passing Latina growing up because I grew up in West Harlem, where it's like very
Yeah,
diverse. And so I just saw myself always as a Latina. I come from,
sure.
my parents are Ecuadorians, I'm Ecuadorian. And so I never saw myself, okay, like, you know, I'm a white passing Latina. Like my parents, they
Hmm.
didn't even know about that term really. No one did. Like from
Right.
my family because they never saw themselves as like that. And a lot of them, they aren't white passing Latinos. A lot of them are have more of an indigenous like appearance than
Hmm.
me. And so for me, it was just more of like I never experienced racism or any kind of oppression, discrimination, none of that. So it was not like something that like for me it was like a problem, I will say, and thankfully it's not, but for
Good.
others it is,
Hmm.
unfortunately. So I never knew that, but like I came to the realization growing up, like when I was getting bullied, it came from a lot of like people of
Mm.
color. And there's times where to this day I don't know why. Maybe it's because they didn't find me pretty, or maybe because they had like, like problems with their own identity, which is not their
Sure.
fault. So it was just more of like, you know what? Like I need to come to a realization that like I am privileged in a way because of my looks, because I'm bilingual, because I was born in the United
Mm.
States. And I remember prior to graduating from high school, I had a friend that was a junior going to their senior year, and
Hmm.
she was a woman of color. And she mentioned to me because of how my skin is lighter, my hair, I have colored eyes, that I'm gonna have certain privileges that others don't have, which like really like stuck with my head once I went into my first college, which was in upstate, because that's when
Yeah.
I saw so much of like somewhat of diverse, but at the same time, because it's a predominantly white institution, I saw also like lack of common sense from white folks. There are
Mm.
times, and
Hmm.
especially there was an incident that was sent out through email about like um there was like a poster posted by like some kids of like build the wall, because this was also during like Trump's first term. So it was a lot of like people were
Oh
very open
gosh.
about their political beliefs. And
Hmm.
for me, that like really like triggered me because it's like,
Of
why would
course.
you post this? Like, I get freedom of speech, like you have every right to talk and feel how you feel, but I feel like especially in that political climate, it was just not okay because there's also people of color in those institutions that are struggling to navigate a new environment.
Hmm. Absolutely. But it's like there's no empathy about
Right,
that. It's
no
just like
empathy.
posting hateful things.
Right. And then I mean also like at the time when I had like the friends at the time I also had, because a lot of them obviously didn't look like me, but they did come from a Hispanic background. Like a lot of times
Hmm.
I could see the jealousy, I could see the hatred, and it's like at times I'm like I would question myself. I'm like, why me? Like, like
Mm.
it really made me feel down at times. It's like, what do I do? And then through therapy and everything, it really made me come to the realization. I'm like, you know what? I should actually just acknowledge the privilege I have, especially like for my community, and then use it to advocate
Hmm.
and support other communities as well.
Wow. I feel like that's a huge realization to come to when, you're kind of reconciling these two things of you're seeing obviously these very negative things happen, these are like racist things happen, but then you're also kind of reconciling, I do have certain privileges here because I am white passing, but I'm still also Latina, like in all these things. It's just good for you. I feel like it is hard for people to kind of reconcile their privilege with their identity and who they are. That's very difficult.
Yeah, it's not easy because even during COVID, like when the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all
Hmm.
these violence against Black individuals, it was insane how to this day, like I see so many people that were finally opening up that they have
Hmm.
privilege, as well as like helping others, unlearning their biases. But also at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, still seeing other people just like be racist, discriminating,
Mm-hmm.
stereotyping others. Like it was just like, wow, like some people are willing to make a change, but then some people are still willing to stay in their old habits, their biases.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks, but it's also like you can't force someone to change right away. They have to do it themselves. Just like with
Right.
clients, like you can't, like we're not here to save the client. We're here to just go where they're going and let them decide what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And gosh, it's a hard thing to do sometimes to
It
just kind of
is because you
sit
want the
back and let
best,
people grow.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You want the best, but it's also like it's their life. They have
Yeah.
complete control and power of it, and they should. And if they want to learn this way, that way, then we have to let them.
Wow. That is fair.
Yeah.
What at NYU, how do you feel curriculum wise? How, because I know a lot of grad schools, I didn't get any kind of cultural humility, competency, diversity, anything till I was in grad school. How do you feel about that piece of like your social work education?
So for me, I remember all my classes, my spring semester, my first semester have been amazing. My
Hmm.
practice professor is a well-educated Black woman. She is so amazing, and I thanked her like because I had her also for my summer semester. I thanked her so much every time because
Hmm.
the way she spoke, the way she also like talks about like her experiences being at NYU as not only professor but also as a grad student back in like the early
Yeah.
thousands, like stood out to me a lot because it's like it's not easy, and it's still not easy for a lot of people of color or just people in marginalized communities to be in this space where it's predominantly white, as well as
Hmm.
like I also had my class called Drop, which is diversity, racism, oppression, and privilege. And my
Yes.
professor is a Black man who experienced incarceration before and now it's like an advocate for it. Like that class really like was so powerful for me because that is when I actually acknowledged being a white passing Latina. And even
Hmm.
like some of my classmates who are Latinas but obviously aren't white passing, like they appreciated how much I had the bravery to say that because they told me how people that look like me don't always admit that,
Hmm.
or don't want to admit that. And
Hmm.
I was just like, no, like I'm gonna admit that because it's the truth. It's the
Hmm.
truth, whether I like it or not. Like, it's the truth. And there's nothing much I can do but just continue to educate myself and also hear others out.
Mm. I love when you say it's the truth whether I like it or not. 'Cause I think that's something a lot of social workers, especially, I mean, there's like social work is just overrun by white women, including myself. And I've seen, especially in grad school, a lot of them, even in like Facebook groups I'm in now with like some like social work Facebook groups, I'm just like, some of you really need to do some like deep reflective work on your privilege and where you are just like in society and all of that, because you're not really reconciling what that means, how that also affects just like who you are as a social worker and how you show up to the people that you're supposed to be supporting. And that was something I had to go through in grad school as well. I think that was a really important part of my own. We had a similar program, um, like a similar curriculum to the, you said it was like drop. We had prop. I can't really remember what the first P stands for, but it was a very similar thing that really challenged me and helped me reconcile a lot of things that I didn't even realize were coming up for me. It was just like oh well, I don't think I'm racist. I don't think I'm this and this and this. And it was like, well, you still have to like understand your privilege and your identity and also how that affects who you are as a social worker.
I completely agree. And then even so, like right now with this current political climate, like a lot has been happening with like, resources not being
Hmm.
funded as well as like immigration, unfortunately. And immigration for me really has hit me a lot because my first
Yeah.
year placement, a lot of the clients I was working with were undocumented. And even to this day, like I still hope that they're okay because they also have children below the age of 18 that they have to like be a parent to provide care, nurture, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
Yeah.
like really tough times that we're really living in, unfortunately. And I know last year it really got bad after the election, I remember. And it
Mm-hmm.
was also like the first time even my mom voted because my mom actually became a citizen back
Oh,
in May of 2024. And my dad just became
wow.
one this past summer, which
Oh
is
my gosh.
amazing. But I
So
also
cool.
never knew, thank you. I also never knew the how long the process is. Not
Yeah.
only just for citizenship, but even for residency. Like it's such a long
Mm-hmm.
process because, lawyers have a lot of these cases and they can't finish them in one, two, three. Like it's a lot. And it's also
Mm-hmm.
like it's on both the lawyers and the clients. Like they have to work together.
Yeah, it's an insane process, and it's something I think about all the time, especially since it is so obviously like an insane thing going on right now politically. But I'm just like, does nobody understand how this process works? It's an insane process. Like
It
it's so
is.
long, so much money and effort and everything. Like some people just don't get it.
They don't. And like I remember the day of the election, like after my mom obviously dropped the ballot and everything, because I voted prior to her voting. Like
Yeah.
literally we were like having hope that okay, everything's gonna turn out well. I tried not to watch the news a lot that day because I was
Hmm.
like, I don't want to drain myself and everything. I don't want to like make my anxiety go more up. But at the same time, I kind of was getting updates from like some of my friends who were watching the news and being more attentive. And I was just
Hmm.
like, there has to be something, a miracle or something. And unfortunately, there wasn't. And it really like took a toll on me where it's like so many people I was seeing on my social media, like being
Hmm.
so depressed, being so furious and everything,
Yeah.
like expressing all these emotions. But at the same time, seeing some of these people also from like similar backgrounds to me being happy about the results of the election,
Mm.
in which it really boiled me because it's like you don't think this is gonna affect you, even if it may not affect you, it's gonna affect someone that you love.
Hmm.
It like
Hmm.
really, really, I remember that day I was just so aggravated. I was like, okay, like I'm gonna do like a cleansing on social media of these people that are the complete opposite, that don't have no empathy, no awareness. Like
Yes.
they're gonna learn it the hard way. And I'm pretty sure right now a lot of them are because of what's been going on right now with like the with Snap and everything
Oh
else.
gosh, yeah. Absolute chaos. Good for you though, in like recognizing your own boundaries with just like media consumption, because that's a thing where I've tried to reconcile like my standing as a person of privilege, especially being white, being a citizen, like being all of these things. I'm like, what's my balance of taking care of myself and not consuming the news, but also making sure I'm involved and still know what's going on, especially as a social worker, because like we're working with people, we do have to stay in the know. But when it's absolute insane chaos every single day, it's hard to be in the know all the time.
Yes, I completely agree. And I see that times there's posts of like, oh, social work is not political. Yes, it is
Oh,
because we're doing our best to give clients resources they need. And it's just not SNAP. It could be housing, it could be food
hmm.
distribution, it could be clothing supplies, you name it. And like
Hmm.
it is political based. Like
Yes, it is.
we have to provide as much resources as we can for them so that they can have access because not a lot of them have access to everything. Not a lot of them have health insurance, unfortunately. Not a lot of them are willing to spend 100 something on therapy.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
we play a major role in that. And even so, like, um, right now, like, for me, it's also been like I started learning more about like law as well, like how the law works, especially because of this
Hmm.
current political climate and how social works are actually involved as well. Like, there's social workers that work with lawyers and they have clients, especially from like that are immigrants that are seeking asylum here or that like are trying to get a a a work permit or like trying to get a green card or like,
Hmm.
actually by now they're a resident and like are wanting to become a citizen. Like it's a law. Like we as
Yeah.
social workers are collaborating with a lot of people.
Literally, it's why social work is also so important because like we are such a unique profession and like the way that we're collaborating with so many people, and I think like we're such at the epicenter of all of these things that are going on. I totally agree with you. For people to say social work is not political, I'm like, I'm so sorry. What? Like
Right.
what
Like,
do you
yes,
mean?
we are.
You have misunderstood the profession if that's what you think.
Right. And like
Oh,
yeah, and like I have friends that are in social work like me, but I also have friends that aren't, and the ones that aren't, like they're still very open-minded and like even ask me
hmm,
questions. And I even ask them questions too, because it's like I care about your profession too, because you do have an impact as well in the society.
absolutely. Yeah. No, that's so valid. So in all of this, because I think this is important, we'll get to kind of what you think needs to change in like social work education and social work and all of this. But for yourself, being just being from a family of immigrants in all this political turmoil, being Latina, being all these things, how are you taking care of yourself? Because it's a little insane. Like, how are you staying hopeful about social work and also grounded in what you need?
For me, it's just I try to make sure I'm getting informed about everything through
Hmm.
the right outlets. I know there's
Hmm.
certain outlets that could be biased at times because I can read from one outlet about the same thing, but then from another outlet and it's a whole different thing. And then there's times where I question, I'm like, which is true? Which is like, it's for me to do my research
Hmm.
and know what's the truth as well as trust my instincts. And having supervision with my supervisor has helped me so much, especially for me working with DV survivors, just the
Mm.
importance of staying grounded, but also like before meeting with clients or after meeting clients, let everything out. Just let it all
Hmm.
out. Let all your feelings out, whether that's you crying, you just being sad, you just like finally able to breathe. It's just important. It's important to take care of yourself. For me, what I've been doing lately is I've actually been reading a lot. Like one of the book series I was reading, it's Latinx in the social work and a lot of
Yes.
it's such
Hmm.
a good book. It's such a good book and it's crazy because the author, I already met her. She also comes from Ecuadorian descent, and
Oh,
I'm
that's
friends with
awesome.
her daughter. Yeah, like such a small world because I met her daughter through my brother's birthday event this past year. I'm like, wow, New York is such
That's
a
so
small world.
funny.
And it's like, it's insane. And like the stories I've read from all three books, they're so unique because they all are people of color, but also they come from the Latino community, which I'm from. And it's just
Hmm.
so amazing to read their stories, how they navigated through the United States, because some weren't born in the United States, but some were, but still they dealt with obstacles. They still had challenges they had to go through.
Mm,
So like it really like
absolutely.
amazed me and it like continues for me, my passion to social work keep growing because it's like we need more of these voices. We need
Hmm.
more of these voices. We need people to hear us more, see us more.
Absolutely. That's so essential. That's why that book I think is so powerful too, because it does
Really.
just that. Like for other social workers that really relate, it's like, wow, like this is just it's really powerful.
It is.
Oh. Um, what do you think? And this is kind of it's a big question, but what would you personally like to see change in the social work profession, in social work education? Like what do you think would really be impactful?
For me, it's just continue to see more brave spaces created in social work programs, not just NYU, but across all
Hmm.
institutions that provide social work programs. I feel like it's important that students, especially those who have been oppressed or marginalized by the system, to feel safe, supported, and heard through their colleagues, professors, the faculty members.
Hmm.
So it's very important that everybody has the chance to share their voice and express without the fear of judgment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So much of that does like it does just come back to like having open and honest conversations and people being able to like speak freely and speak their truth and have the people around them like hear it and actually understand what they're saying and what needs to happen with that.
Of course, and I understand when there's times where I could tell some of my classmates don't want to speak up be about their personal experience because it may trigger them with their mental health, which I get. Like
Hmm.
everybody is going to be ready at their own pace, but at the same time, those
Yeah.
that do speak about their personal experience, like for me, it's just more give them empathy and grace because that's really a brave thing to do. Because not
That's
everybody
hugely
needs to
brave.
know, not everybody needs to know the challenges you face, the obstacles you face and all, but if you're willing to share that, then that's good. That's good.
Hmm.
Even at the end of the day, if people are giving you the side eye or like gonna judge you, like doesn't matter. You did this at the end of the day for yourself because you want to raise awareness, you want to advocate for yourself, you want to be basically set free.
Hmm. Absolutely. It is such a vulnerable thing. I remember in grad school, like when people would share about maybe like a lived experience of theirs, and it was a thing where I'm like, whoa, it takes so much courage to just take up space and to be like, this is my story. This is maybe something I've been through. This is why I have empathy in this way, or this is my perspective. Like, but it's those conversations that are so important to have.
It is. And even if you don't say it to the whole class, like at least confide in like people. Doesn't have to be
Hmm.
from the program. It could be like friends that you trust, family members that you trust.
Yeah.
For me, I've luckily have met amazing people in my program, but out of those amazing people, like two of them I'm like super close with, and like we've gotten to know each other in more of a personal level as well, besides the profession level.
Hmm.
And it's just amazing how like just by getting to know someone, like they feel safe, they feel secure
Yeah.
by like your presence. And for me, it's just been like, at times like I've had struggles with friendships because I get people can outgrow themselves, but at the same time, it's like there should be a way to communicate as well as set a boundary because yes,
Hmm.
there's times where it's like you don't always want to hear what someone's going through because it may take a toll on you. You may be triggered by it, which is fine, but it's important to set that boundary of like, hey, like, thank you for sharing this. I don't know how to process this, but let me try to get back to you or like let me be here
Hmm.
as much as I can for you, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Just that practice of like having safe spaces, really, which unfortunately in social work I think exists, but not necessarily to the level it should.
I completely agree. Like, I remember in my practice one course, we all had to do a role play. Like, it was mandatory. We couldn't skip it. Like,
Yes,
my
how
professor,
fun.
because the class was also small, like, my professor knew who went and who didn't. So it was me and one of my good friends in the program that
Hmm.
we did a role play regarding to her setting, which was DV at the time, because my setting
Yeah.
was mostly like I was working with community social workers. A lot of the clients were immigrants. So we did her setting because it was quite more easier. Because for my
Hmm.
setting my first placement last year, I had to speak mostly Spanish and my friend doesn't speak Spanish. So I'm like, how's that role play
Right.
gonna work? So we chose her setting. And after it ended, I remember I was playing the client and everybody praised me for, my acting and everything, even my professor. And right after that, like I told my friend, I'm like, hey, listen, like I gotta tell you something. And, my friend paused and I basically opened up about my personal experience because I was
Wow.
basically in college in like almost a 3-year relationship. It wasn't perfect. It actually was
Hmm.
toxic up to the point where I would experience verbal and emotional abuse. And that's the thing with DV. A lot of times with DV, it's not always physical.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Ab-
my friend, like, she paused and like she hugged me and she asked me, like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine now, but I just wanted to let you know that. That's why I basically acted good in this part, in this role play. And then even after
Wow.
that, my professor, because our professor also gave us their phone number to also
Hmm.
text them. I texted my professor thanking them for this role play as well as just like opening up a bit about my experience. And my professor was so kind and so gentle with me, thanking me for being brave enough to take my experiences into that role play and just like continue to learn
Yeah.
and be passionate for social work.
I mean, it takes so much courage to do that. And that's also, again, like to each their own. I know some people are maybe not ready to like verbalize things in that way, but I think to even have that awareness of what's coming up for you in a given moment, why something is maybe easier or harder for you, and making those connections is so valuable to understanding yourself as a social worker and understanding like, okay, this is like my energy in a certain moment, or maybe where my body is at because of a lived experience I've had. Like that's so powerful.
Of course, and like even me, like I've been in therapy for like I've basically been in therapy for like 3 years, almost 4 years, and I'm not ashamed
Hmm.
of that. I feel like, especially growing up as a Latina, like it's not always been easy to say the word therapy, because, for example,
Sure.
my parents, they grew up in a conservative household in Ecuador, and
Hmm.
because their parents had them like at like a young age, and like my parents are both, my mom is three of six, she's the middle child, my dad is one of four, he's the oldest. So a lot of pressure
Mm.
was on them to
Yeah.
like not only like help out, but just like at the same time be better people. So they weren't educated as much as like I feel like we are right now. And they're still
Hmm.
learning more things. And I'm still teaching them also more things. And so is my brother. So for me, just to like, be proud that I go to therapy is not something everybody always says, which I get it, like because of the mental health stigma. But for me,
Hmm.
knowing I'm in this profession, it's important to say, yes, I'm in therapy and it's normal because this
Yeah.
field is a lot for us too. Like we need someone to also talk about our mental health, our well-being, like anything.
Hmm. Absolutely. It's so essential. Is because this, as much as I am obsessed with social work, it's hard and it's important to have your own safe space to talk to people about it, professionally or unprofessionally. Like just have that space for yourself. Um,
Exactly.
what would be, I again, another hard question, but just like just one piece of advice for the social work students and social workers listening, what would
I
be
would
a
def
piece of advice you'd give? Mhm.
I would definitely say practicing self-care is important
Mm,
because especially right now in this political climate, but also just like further throughout the years, like it's not going to be easy. And it's important
yeah.
to be taking care of ourselves, even if that's at times going on a solo day, like walking, drinking a coffee, having a lunch, a sandwich, ice cream, like, or just like going to the park and journaling. Like, it's important that you give yourself your own time for yourself. Or even if you
Hmm.
just want to be surrounded by friends and family, that's fine too, but just be gentle with yourself. Like, at the end of the
Absolutely.
day, in order for us to be there for our clients and continue to make a better change in the society, it needs to start with us. It needs to start with us admitting like where are we wrong, where we need support as well. That's why I said therapy is so important, especially being in this field,
Hmm.
but just overall like existing. Like I have friends that are not in social work, but do go to therapy because they want to continue to grow and heal. Because one thing with healing I've learned, and this is through my first therapist, healing never
Hmm.
ends. You can
True.
you can overcome something, but at the same time, you can also go through something later on. Healing
Hmm.
never ends. Like healing will never end. And it's important for us to, instead of like caring about, like I want to get this done, to just go
Hmm.
with the flow, with the process. Because the more you go with it, the more you're like, oh, okay, this is something I'm now realizing. Instead of just like you know, like ignoring it, being basically in survival mode. Because for me, experiences of me being in survival mode are not the best, have not been the best. I've been
Yeah.
in survival mode so many times, and it's not good because it's like you really question, you're like, why is this happening? And instead of
Hmm.
asking yourself the questions why, it's like, okay, this happened because of this is that. What should I do next? Talk to a therapist, journal. Like everybody, of course, has their own form of therapy, which is fine because everybody grew up in a different environment, experiencing different
Yeah.
challenges. But just the practice of self-care is super important, talking it out. Like me even doing this podcast, I feel like it's such a form of self-care because I get to
Woohoo!
express myself. I get to express myself and I get to be the most vulnerable, authentic person I can ever be while also growing and
Hmm.
learning. Like I think also my professors so far in these past 3 semesters for creating such a brave space in class and continue to do that and continue to admit that they still have learning of their own to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a huge thing, such a green flag in a professor is when they're aware that like it never really ends. You are always learning and challenging yourself.
Of course, and then also for me, it's just more like I want to continue to educate others as much as
Hmm.
possible, specifically people in the Latino community, like the importance of taking care of themselves, taking advantage of the resources they can use. Especially
Hmm.
right now, like it's very important that we support one another, that we reach out
Absolutely.
as much as possible. And that's the thing too with me speaking Spanish. Like there's times where yes, I speak a little Spanglish because I'm so used to speaking more English. But at the same
Hmm.
time, like I talk Spanish with my parents, with my family members, and I always try to talk Spanish even by myself when I'm alone, so that like the language just doesn't fade away.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, it's really important. And then also just more of like nowadays, like I also been learning more about like what people think about being on medication. And
Oh, that's
I
big.
definitely feel like being social work has opened my eyes more about medication because it's important that people are very informed of the different treatment plans, whether that's through therapy, through like
Hmm.
spirituality medications. But even so, like people say, like regardless of what treatment plan you want to do, you should still have a therapist while going through the other
Yeah.
treatment plans because you need that much support and it's good to have that.
Hmm. Absolutely. I'm definitely biased since I'm a therapist, but I agree. Like it is such an essential space to have for everyone, especially I mean social workers too. It's so valuable to have that safe space and to really process a lot of this stuff. 'Cause it is
Extremely.
a
And
lot.
I'm glad, like lately, I've been making so many connections with other social workers who, at
Hmm.
times, they relate so much to me. They're like, "Oh my God, I was thinking the same," or like, "What?" Or they mention something, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I was also thinking the same." Or even something that's like I never knew about the field that
Yeah.
they tell me, and I'm like, "Oh, this is interesting. I'm gonna do more research about this, or ask more around, like to my professors or
Hmm.
my supervisor, because." This is something very important to learn. And also like being right now an MSW student, it's like I'm still gonna figure out what population I want to work with specifically because you just never know. Like all the experiences you have in class, but also in your placement do have an impact on where in social work you want to go into.
Yeah. No, that's so true. Oh, Ashley, this has been an absolute delight. I'm feeling so energized about social
Me
work.
too.
I'm hearing your passion and excitement for it, and it's making me really excited. And I'm just like, oh my gosh,
Aw.
social work is so cool. We have so many awesome people coming up in social work. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience and your story. Where can the listeners keep up with you?
Of course, thank you so much for having me, Laura. And thank you for all the work you've been doing as well. Like you've been doing so many amazing episodes as well. And it is much needed too, especially with everything going on. We need more motivation. And I'm glad you're
That's
that
true.
person.
That was very sweet. Well, thank you. Is there anything that you want to plug? Anything that the podcast listeners can tune into you?
The only thing I will say is just continue to be yourself. This
Hmm.
is a very weird world at times, especially times like this where we're living at, but just making sure to take care of yourself always and be gentle with yourself. And also just ignore what everybody else says. Because at the end of the day,
Yes,
only your opinion matters, only yours.
truly. Oh, well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. For those listening, um, Ashley's like Instagram or whatever will be down below. Any links there, check those out. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with another social worker or social work student or someone interested in social work. And we will see you next time. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.